rounding third with home plate in sight. But even the best players need a coach to wave them in. Safe! Welcome to Perfect Game Retirement, hosted by Ryan Ledden, former pro baseball player, University of Georgia economics graduate, and now certified financial planner with Black Oak Asset Management. He's here to guide you through the final stretch and help you slide safely into a winning retirement. Play ball!
Hello, welcome in. This is Perfect Game Retirement. I'm Ben George. He is Ryan Ledden, president and financial coach and certified financial planner, Black Oak Asset Management. They have offices in Alpharetta, Macon, Lawrenceville, serving the entire Atlanta area and beyond. And we're glad that you're here with us because there's a lot of talk about the big, beautiful bill. I'm not going to try to give a Trump impression here, Ryan, as we hop into this, but it's very tempting. But this is a lot of the news right now, isn't it?
It is. It's something that's been on, our radar really since kind of the new regime, if you will, in D.C. took over. And we knew a lot of the tax code was going to sunset at the end of this year. And I think a lot of people were like, there's no way they're going to just let it sunset and go away because obviously Trump was the one who was responsible for the current tax code that we're in from 2017. So we've been anxiously awaiting, and now that we have these things, we're still, unpacking them, which is not out of the ordinary, but there's a lot of highlights and a lot of detail, too, that obviously we won't have time on just one show, but we'll hit the highlights and kind of go through some of the main points and then, talk about kind of the winners and losers of this whole thing. And I say winners and losers in air quotes because, it depends on your perspective there.
Yeah, so it's going to be a great show, and if you've had any interest in this bill and just curious of how it's going to affect you beyond what the headlines are telling you, we're going to dig into that today here on Perfect Game Retirement. If you have any questions, want to connect with Ryan at Black Oak Asset Management, we give you the opportunity to do that. Go to retireperfect.com. Again, retireperfect.com. You can schedule a time to meet with Ryan. It's a complimentary consultation. Just talk with him about, what your goals are, kind of get a better idea of your financial picture and figure out maybe where you should head next as you get ready for retirement. If you're close, if not, either way, now is a great time to sit down with a certified financial planner and begin talking about that. And today is a great episode because there are a lot of opportunities right now, maybe not a big window to take advantage of those. We'll get into that quite a bit. But before we do that, Ryan, I know you're probably excited because school's starting back this week.
Yeah, routine, baby. Routine. Yeah. Ready to get back at that. And obviously it depends on what school district, kids are, it's probably variations of days or here or there, but our kiddos are for Forsyth County and we go back Tuesday of this coming week. So I think everybody wants a little structure back in their life, whether the kids will actually admit they want to be in school. But we got somewhat of small milestones. My son will be going to middle school and my daughter will be going to high school. So they were the big kids on the block last year. Now they're the little runts at their respective schools.
Yeah, that'll be a big transition. So does that mean you guys will be around a little bit more on the weekends?
Yeah, I think, with travel ball now done and track now done, my daughter will be starting her varsity softball schedule. They actually play Tuesday this week, so it's always cool to be a new kid, a freshman, competing for time on the varsity. And then my son will be starting his middle school football, so it's no longer the rec league. It's the first step into kind of big boy football. So yep. We'll see how that goes.
I love it. Well, good luck to them as they get started in this next milestone and next stage of life. It's pretty exciting stuff. All right, let's jump in then. Let's dig into this big, beautiful bill. Again, if you have any questions for Ryan, go to retireperfect.com to get in touch with him and learn more about Black Oak Asset Management. But let's get into some of the main points here first before we talk winners and losers. And I know, the biggest thing everybody was kind of looking towards is the tax brackets, right? Because there's a lot of talk, and you talked about this. Hey, end of the year, the previous bill is going to be sunsetting. What does that mean for us? But what do we know now?
Yeah, I mean, it basically looks like the marginal rates or each percentage bracket that you're in, those continue on, and you see the terminology permanent in there, and most of the time it's in quotes or italicized or something different because we all know they don't mean permanent. We all know in 50 years from now it's not going to be the same marginal tax bracket, so they're permanent. The language in there is they're permanent until they are changed, which is like, well, what's the point of that? Well, again, in 2017, when they did this tax cuts, there was a definitive date. It said, 12/31 of 25, these things are going to sunset and they're going to revert back to pre-2017 levels starting 1/1 of 26. Well, again, that is not the case now. These are permanent, again, until future Congress and the future president, if they can sign a bill into law, then it'll change. But as of right now, there is no end date until it's changed. So we'll stay somewhere between the 10% and the 30% federal tax bracket.
That's good. It'll give you some planning. You'll kind of know what to expect moving forward, and can help you make some decisions from a tax standpoint. And kind of along the same lines, the standard deduction, which has been a big part of tax prep for a lot of people, because the deduction has been so large. Most people haven't had to itemize, and it looks like we're going to have much of the same moving forward, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people were kind of eyeballing that because they were going to be cut in half. So whatever our levels are now, they were just going to be chopped in half going into 2026. So it does simplify for a lot of people. I mean, the people who itemize, they're going to continue to itemize. Like myself, I itemize between me being a small business owner and my wife as well, small business owner. So yeah, those standard deductions are going to continue on. They're pretty large. Again, for a single filer starting next year, it'll be $15,750. For married filing jointly, it's $31,500. So this year for married filing jointly, it's an even $30,000. So it's for the first time in a long time, it's been a clean, easy number, and they're just going to gravitate up a little bit starting next year. So for the majority of people, it'll still be a very simplified tax return.
Yeah, and if you're curious about how this might affect you at all, or what planning moves you should be making now to get prepared from a tax standpoint, again, you can always get in touch with Black Oak Asset Management right now. Go to retireperfect.com. You can schedule a time to sit down, meet with Ryan. You can do that. So right there on the website, retireperfect.com, begin talking about some of these things. Again, some opportunities right now from this big, beautiful bill, which we're diving into. And, another one here, Ryan, the SALT cap. I know that this probably familiar to some people, but you can maybe explain what the SALT cap is. And I know that it has bumped up significantly, right?
It has. I think a lot of people hear the acronym and they kind of scratch their head because it's not quite as cut and dry as maybe the federal marginal tax rate or a standard deduction, the two things we've already talked about. But SALT is basically state and local taxes. And so there was a cap on how much you could deduct, and that was $10,000. So now it's extended to $40,000, which is pretty significant. So this is, is good news for those who have higher incomes and, have larger property tax bills. And it's amazing how property taxes, obviously it depends on what part of town you live in, but they continue to go up, which is a good problem. It is. It's a good problem. That means your property is appreciating, but it also comes with a tax. So the cap on that is now $40,000, and there are some income restrictions. It starts to phase out, but it doesn't phase out until your household income is, I think $500,000. But don't quote me on that, but I think it's $500,000. Then it starts to phase out. So a lot of people will benefit from that, state and local sales tax deduction because it's quadrupled. It's from $10K to $40K.
Yeah, so pretty significant there. So again, reach out if you have questions about maybe how that will affect you directly. retireperfect.com. Now, if you are getting close to retirement, one to maybe really pay attention to is the senior citizen deduction. I know most people won't love the name, Ryan, but this is a nice little additional bump for people from a deduction standpoint, right?
I know it's like saying senior citizen. I mean, that's how it's listed. That's how it says it. Yep. But yeah, you're like, I know people who are 65 and I do not consider them a quote unquote senior. So yeah, it's an additional $6,000 per person. Up to $12,000 for married filing jointly. Again, this was misconstrued a little bit as the elimination of Social Security tax, which is not true. There is still a Social Security tax depending on what your provisional income calculation is. And then, a certain portion is tax-free from Social Security because right now that's how it is. 15% of your Social Security benefit is tax-free depending on what your taxable income is. So now there's an extra $6,000 per person, but there is a phase out for that. So here's where tax planning really comes into play, especially before the age of 65. So if somehow, whether it's through Roth conversions or saving in brokerage accounts or after tax accounts, this is where it's really going to play in, because over 150,000 married filing jointly, that extra 6,000 starts to phase out. So that's where, again, we've always talked about tax planning, because it affects your Social Security tax, it affects your Medicare premiums, and now it's going to affect your extra potential deduction that you get on top of already the large standard deduction. So that's a significant amount of money that's quote unquote tax free. But again, it phases out. So if you're over that 150K of taxable income, it starts to move down. So again, that's where in the tax planning software that we have has already been updated to this big, beautiful bill parameters. So we can start that tax planning, whether it just be for next year or the next 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. Well, there's another one that I wanted to point out, because I know as a small business owner, as you mentioned, you and your wife, this one might mean a lot to you. And obviously you work with a lot of business owners, so I want to kind of bring this to their attention as well. But there's a bonus depreciation now that you can depreciate 100% of any business purchases, right, that you make in the given year. So explain how this would work and why this would matter.
Yeah, it wasn't this high. It was still pretty significant, but yeah, 100% of being able to depreciate essentially on larger purchases. Now, in my line of work, I don't do a lot of large purchases where I, basically do the bonus depreciation, but there are plenty of people who are in real estate, who are in who need large equipment, so vehicles, things of that nature. So that's a big deal, being able to deduct 100% of that bonus depreciation. So it gets into the weeds a little bit, but it's definitely something where small business owners or large business owners can really take advantage of that and purchase some of those things that maybe they've been putting off, and now they're getting an extra benefit to making those large purchases.
All right, so these are some of the biggest things that you need to be aware of from the big, beautiful bill, some of the main points beyond the headlines that you might be reading. But there are a few other things that are in there. Again, this is a long, long bill, hundreds of pages, so there's going to be a lot more in this that we don't get to. But any other things of note that maybe caught your attention, Ryan, that are worth mentioning now?
Yeah, I mean, there are a few. I've actually already had several people email me about these nickname Trump accounts. It's a $1,000 kind of seed money, if you will, for a child who was born basically January 1 of this year through the end of 2028. Now, I've had several people already email me about it, and I'm like, these counts, even though like they've been announced by the federal government, they don't exist yet. Like the custodian that we use in Schwab, I mean, they don't have these things yet. So it's the laws already, they come down first, and then it's like, okay, then we got to scramble and figure this thing out. So, but the Trump accounts, I mean, I like the idea of them. You can get $1,000 basically from the government, but the parent or the individual can put up to $5,000 per year, and it's basically for them until the age of 18. So it's almost like an IRA for the kid that they can have access to at the age of 18. So the specifics of that are still coming out, but it directly involves what we do. So I'm sure that's going to be part of my business, is opening these Trump accounts for kids. Another significant one is 529 plans. The 529 plan, several years ago, they opened it up to be able to take $10,000 out to pay for private school tuition. So before they need it for college. And now that limit's been extended to $20,000, because these, private school tuitions and the other things that go along with that, you can use up to $20,000 to use it for that. So thought that was pretty interesting. A couple other things. Again, this could be a rabbit hole of information, but the estate tax limit is up to $15 million per person. So a married couple can give away $30 million that is not subject to estate tax, a federal estate tax. It could be state estate tax, but not federal estate tax. So that's extended on because that was supposed to be cut in half. There's above the line charitable giving deductions, $1,000 per person. So that they call it above the line because that's on the first page at the very, very top, that you get to basically deduct that. up to $1,000 per person. So that's higher than it used to be. Not a game changer, but it was higher than it used to be. And then one more, the child tax credit, that's slightly increased. It was $2,000, now it's $2,200 per kid. So there are and those things add up. We mentioned a lot of things, and again, trust me, there is a ton more. We just don't have time for one show.
Right.
But there's other things that you add those things up, and some may benefit you, some may not. But I would say it's a pretty favorable bill from a taxation standpoint.
Yeah, a very favorable bill. And again, there's a lot to this. So there are going to be things that impact you, some things that won't impact you. But the best way to dig in and really know what you should be doing right now, and again, this is a limited window. 4 years might seem like a long time, but this is a small window to take advantage of some of these things. So you want to begin planning right, Ryan, and this is kind of what you do every single day, is help people find opportunities that align with their goals and their needs and help them take advantage of those.
Yeah, like I said, the software we use, we'll take people's tax returns, upload that into the software, and then we can run different scenarios based off of this new bill. And if your taxable income from 2024 is going to be similar to 25, and then so on in future and down the road, we can start looking for opportunities, which, there's always going to be opportunity in a new bill, whether good or bad, but there's opportunity. So we want to navigate those waters of what changes have taken place, and it may make an impact. So, okay, if we're owing less tax, maybe next year, based off of maybe this year in 2025, and if our income is going to be about the same, hey, let's take advantage of those potential Roth conversions that we talk so much about, because they did not get rid of that loophole. So there's no income restrictions. There's no limit on how much you can convert your pre-tax IRA into a Roth. So again, probably a great time to take advantage of that over the next few years.
All right. Again, you can start that by going to retireperfect.com to get in touch with Brian Ledden over at Black Oak Asset Management. You can schedule a time to meet with him. You can book that free consultation right now on the website at retireperfect.com. Begin talking about some of these things. And there are winners and losers to this big, beautiful bill who can take advantage of some things that might not impact you positively. We'll talk about those next right here on Perfect Game Retirement.
At Black Oak Asset Management, Atlanta is our home base, with offices in Alpharetta, Lawrenceville, and Macon, but we proudly serve clients nationwide. Whether you're here in the heart of Georgia or across the country, our team is ready to help you plan for retirement, manage investments, and secure your financial future. Schedule your complimentary visit today by visiting retireperfect.com from your smartphone or computer. That's retireperfect.com. Black Oak Asset Management, rooted in the Atlanta area, but serving clients everywhere.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
The first step toward your financial goals can feel monumental, but with the right guidance, your financial moon landing is within reach. Stay tuned for more insight.
You're listening to Perfect Game Retirement with Ryan Ledden at Black Oak Asset Management. He is president and financial coach, also a certified financial planner. We're breaking down the big, beautiful bill. We also hit on this a little bit more on YouTube. If you haven't checked out Ryan's YouTube channel, Black Oak Asset Management, check it out there. I know kind of another opportunity to learn more, Ryan. I know it's all about education for you. That's kind of the first step for you as a former teacher and a former athlete. I know that's a big priority for you.
Yeah, we do that YouTube channel to educate and to, have 10, 15 minute snippets of video content that will help people out. So yeah, that's the kind of the teacher side of me, but then the competitive side of me I want to see if there's more subscribers. I have no aspirations of being like this YouTube influencer, but if I can portray and give away as much information as I can, I want to see more people subscribe to it. And there's a lot of people out there talking about this stuff, but hopefully I make a connection with people and they subscribe to it. And again, there's more people that have this content available to them. So for those who want to listen, subscribe, because it really does make an impact.
Yeah, check it out. Just search for Black Oak Asset Management on YouTube, or just go to retireperfect.com. You'll be able to see some of the YouTube videos there, and it will direct you to the channel. Again, retireperfect.com. All right, we're talking about the big, beautiful bill here on this week's show as everybody's kind of getting into this a little bit more and figuring out what it's all about, trying to read beyond the headlines. We got into the main points. Now I want to talk some winners and losers with you. Who stands to benefit the most and who might get the short end of the stick with the new tax code? So let's start with winners first, Ryan. Who are some of the people that will probably benefit most from this law?
Well, going back to kind of the first segment of the show, I mean, just understanding the marginal tax bracket, because we've had them in place for quite some time, since 2017. So I think it's the simplicity of it. Of course, I don't know if that's a oxymoron statement when we're talking about tax code, but it is a little more simpler when you do have these very, very high standard deductions. So again, for a lot of people, it makes tax preparation fairly easy to do, especially if you're just retired and you know exactly what your income is, or you're a W-2 employee. So anyway, those higher standard deductions make it a little easier. Again, for those who are over the age of 65, I'm not going to call them seniors, but the age over 65, again, that extra deduction on top of the large standard deduction, that can be significant dollars that you're talking about. But again, you got to be aware of what your taxable income is, because there is a phase out above 150 adjusted gross income. So something to be aware of. Mentioned this in the previous episode. Those of you who have large estates, maybe you sold a business, sold a property, and you have pretty substantial wealth. It's $15 million per person from an estate, federal estate tax exemption. So up to $30 million per couple. Now, that's not going to touch a lot of people, but it was supposed to be cut in half. So you're talking, around $7.5-ish million is what it was going to be, which is still a large number. But you start affecting a lot more people when you get to that threshold. So let's see, charity, again, we talked about that. You get the above line deduction. So even if people who give small amounts, if they don't itemize, then they still get that. Again, the SALT cap is extended from 10 grand to 40 grand. So I think those are probably going to be the biggest winners, if you will, from this tax bill. There's others, again, those who have kids, the Trump accounts, but those are kind of the main ones I think will benefit from this.
We're talking about winners and losers of the big, beautiful bill here with Ryan Lednick on Perfect Game Retirement. And on the flip side, who are some people maybe that won't like some of these new updates?
So the flip side of one thing that we mentioned, so married couples with income over $150,000, some of those phase out, especially that extra deduction of $6,000 per person or $12,000 for a married couple filing jointly. So you hear and see that extra $6,000, but then there's usually a catch. It's like, oh, but again, taxable income. But that's where tax planning becomes such a huge part of what you do over the next several years, decades, whatever it may be. Again, the SALT, that's going to benefit some people. So if you're listening to this and you're in Florida or Tennessee, you don't really benefit a whole lot from that. Or if your property values are lower, then it's that increase is not going to significantly affect what you owe or what you get back from taxes, from state and local taxes. So those are two things. Again, there are income thresholds with some of these things, like the child tax credit that I mentioned before. There's a phase out of over $400,000 of income. Then there's a phase out on that too. So there's a lot of just little gotchas that you hear the headlines and then it's like, okay, but let me pull some of this back. Because your income is quote unquote too high, which I think is a relative term. Depends on $400,000 in a state like California or New York doesn't go nearly as far as where it does in other places. So there are some clawbacks with some of those things depending on your income.
All right, very good. Again, if you have questions or want to sit down with Ryan at Black Oak Asset Management to start talking about this big, beautiful bill and how it impacts you, go to retireperfect.com. You can schedule a free consultation right now at retireperfect.com, so check it out. Let's talk about this, Ryan, as we close out today's episode. Some maybe strategic moves and some takeaways and action items people can have for, I guess, if you're a saver, what can you be doing right now?
Yeah, I mean, we touched on it, but I want to reiterate it again. Again, really looking at Roth conversions, especially if you are kind of on the winner side of this tax bill and your tax bill is going to be less. How can we take advantage? How can we take money from a pre-tax account and move it to a Roth account? That way we're paying the tax now, or let's say you get a refund and okay, instead of getting a refund, how much can we convert from our IRA just to break even and not get that refund? So we need to figure out ways to take advantage of that, because again, I cannot reiterate enough, you're going to pay the piper sometime. It's either now, it's either later, or it's either 30 years from now when we don't know what tax rates are going to be. So right now we do know what tax rates are going to be from a air quote permanent basis. So let's take advantage of this as long as we can, because it may only be 4 years. Let's be honest. Okay. Right. It could be 4 years and it could be done where a new bill comes out and it's no longer permanent. So really looking at Roth conversions, those of you who want to give away your wealth while you're alive, continue to take advantage of, the large estate tax exemption, but obviously giving gifts per year, seeing people enjoy it in front of you is a big deal. And it's around $19,000 that you can give away and not have to worry about paying any tax on it. So it's really cool. And then even if you give more than that, it just eats into your $15 million exemption. So really start taking advantage of stuff like that. But Roth conversions is at the top of my list.
I love that. Again, you can sit down and begin discussing that with Ryan by going to retireperfect.com. It is the best place to start. You can schedule a free consultation, but I know there's a lot to dive into here, Ryan, and a lot to sort out. And I know it's where a good certified financial planner, a good advisor can really help you out and walk you through each of these tax planning items, and there's some big stuff in here. So again, take advantage of that free consultation and begin talking through some of these, because this is really important. I know this is a lot of what you do, Ryan. I know a lot of people think as an advisor, you do really just financial and you're talking about investing and that sort of thing, but tax planning is so important to that overall picture, isn't it?
Yeah, and even my men's small group that we meet on Friday mornings, and they were kind of asking truly what I do and why people need advisors. And if you're just hiring an advisor just to manage your portfolio, probably not getting the value that you should get. I think that's a large piece of what we do. But when stuff like this comes up, this is how we help out from a tax planning, retirement planning, Social Security planning, Medicare, again, taxes, investments. I mean, there's so much to navigate, and this stuff constantly changes. And then so you have a person that you trust and work with, instead of trying to scramble and find someone when something drastically changes, like tax bill or different types of accounts or whatever it may be. That's where you have a trusted person in your corner, just like you maybe have a CPA or estate planning attorney or insurance person. You want to have those people in your corner, and we try to take as much of that burden off people's plate, so that way they just enjoy life and enjoy their retirement and not have to worry about it.
All right, well, that timer means we got to get out of here, Ryan.
Keep forgetting that thing's on, but I want to stay true to our time here.
Exactly. So we'll close it out. But again, you can schedule that free consultation, retireperfect.com. Also, get your hands on Ryan's new book. It is free. Just put in some information, some contact info. They can get it out to you. It's Diffuse the Retirement Threats. It can be found there right at retireperfect.com, and much, much more. So we appreciate you being a part of this episode of Perfect Game Retirement. For Ryan Ledden over at Black Oak Asset Management, I am Ben George. We hope you have a great week.
Information provided is for informational purposes only